That was a
Oh
present from my
Oh.
God.
parents. Just to clarify, I did not go out and buy a picture of myself and put it on a piece of wood.
Okay, guys,
You sure about
settle in,
that?
settle
You
in,
sure
boys.
about that?
Oh,
Oh, you can
can you hear
hear
us?
us.
He can
Okay,
hear
you
us
can
all
hear
this
us.
time.
Okay, so settle in, boys. We're just getting started. So the fun and games will come after this. But hello and welcome to a special broadcast here tonight of Axel Sports' live Q&A of meeting our sim drivers. And we have, as you can see, 4 drivers here. Give a thumbs up to acknowledge that you probably heard that question. There you go. So from the top, we have on my left-hand side of the screen, but it's on my right. But either way, that whatever works. Josh Perwin, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Josh. I'm 20 years old. I'm from Perth, Australia, but I'm living in KL, Malaysia.
Great. And we'll get to know more of you after this once the questions start rolling in. Nakib, you're next.
Hi, my name is Nakib Azlan. I'm 22 years old this year. Live in Malaysia, both a sim racing driver and a professional racing driver in the real world for Axel Sports. Started back in 2020. Yeah.
Lovely, jubbly. And below us here, all the way from Muncie, Indiana, it's Alif. Alif, go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Alif. I'm a sim racer here based in Muncie. So I'm representing the Ray Hull Letterman Lanigan racing team and Ball State University and under scholarship here. And I joined Axel Sports back in 2021.
Awesome. Now, last but not least, all the way from the Philippines and one of the pride of the Philippines, Inigo. Inigo, go ahead.
So hi everybody, I'm Inigo Anton. I'm 18 years old from Baguio City, Philippines, and I'm actually a professional race car driver for about 10 years. But I just recently got into sim racing, and I'm lucky to be part of one of Asia's best sim racing teams, Acro Sports, since 2 years ago, since 2021.
Oh, nice. Tish Tosh, all of us are feeling flattered by that one. So, before we go into the questions, it's also key thing to note. A lot of these guys are also e-racing GP champions, all 4 of them. So we literally have Hall of Famers in this particular room right now. So that's quite nice to see that there's a lot of credentials from all these guys. Now then, so we probably got a bit of the gist of it with how you became part of Axel Sports. So this is a question to all of you, but we'll start from top to bottom based on the Zoom screen. We'll go with Josh first. How did you become part of Axel Sports?
So I joined Axel back in 2020 after Axel competed in the 24-hour virtual Le Mans for the first time. I got a call from Alex asking if I wanted to do some more races with them, and the rest is history since then.
Absolutely, and of course, let's not forget the year after, or rather the season after, it was the crowning achievement of everybody involved with a 4th place finish. But we'll get into that as well as the questions, and of course, most of the experience that you guys are coming by. Nakib, you're next. Well, how did you get on board Axel Sports?
For me, it was me taking part in the first edition of the e-racing GP Global Edition, my first ever sim racing competition. At that point, I just did it for fun, really, had no expectations of what was to come. After that season ended, finished runner-up to one of these guys here. We'll go into that later on. But yeah, after that, got a call from Alex, asked if I wanted to work further into the sim racing world. Just well enough, it was Le Mans Virtual coming up in a couple months' time. Asked if he wanted to work together and, build a racing team over it. And it was the kickstart of this brilliant career that's now become.
Okay, absolutely. And the fact that, speaking of kickstarting, we'll also can kickstart the questions on all of our social media. So whoever's watching the streams right now, either on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, you can actually drop a question and we will pick out any one of those to ask to the driver. So you can ask about anything, so long as it's actually PG-13 and safe for work, of course. So yes, that will be it. So that's an open question to all the viewers on board. Now then, next up, Alif, how did you get on board with Axel Sports?
I mean, I've known Alex since I was a little kid. I used to go kart. He used to host like championships around Singapore back then, and then I think after ERGP, after the first 3 seasons, I just gotten out of my previous team, and then Alex was like, "Hey, do you wanna maybe try out R Factor 2? Maybe join the team, do a few endurance races." I was like, why not? And then we finished P4 in the world after that, and in the company of some amazing drivers. And as Josh said, the rest is history.
Indeed. And now for Inigo, how did you get on board with Axel Sports?
Well, I would say first, it was just I would say it was just a complete snowball effect. From first, when the pandemic happened, we were all sim racing. I didn't even know about Race Room and eRacing GP, where Alex holds all the events, of course, until one of my friends here in the Philippines told me that I should try and go. And after just constant competing and also joining the E1 Championship, Alex gave me a call to be part of Axel. And I wouldn't lie, I was so starstruck by it. And I knew that it was going to be a long process, especially with a new game with R Factor 2. But I really enjoy it, and yeah, we've achieved many great things there.
Absolutely. And of course, the combination of that is I think all four of you guys drove in that Le Mans virtual race, didn't you? For yep, all four of you
Oh
guys as
yeah,
well.
it was. It
Yep.
was all four of us.
So it was kind of fated, isn't it, that everyone's here together talking right now, and it was the four of you who achieved the best results. So it's only fitting now that the next question is related to sim racing or racing platform, and it's directed specifically to Josh and Inigo first, and maybe Alif and Nakib can also chip in afterwards. What's your favorite sim racing platform to compete on, and why? Starting with Josh first as well.
Oh, we know the answer here.
So I think I have a different answer to everyone else here, but my favorite personally is iRacing. It's the most popular sim racing game out there. It's also the most popular in Australia. So I think that's kind of why, because the level of competition is a lot higher than it is on the other games in Australia. And for me as well, I like how there's daily races or hourly races even, so you can just race like all week. And I also like the ranking system, and the handling model is my favorite of them all as well.
And of course, you had quite a lot of good memories on there as well, including one of your very first victories for Axel was it at the Bathurst 24, wasn't it? Bathurst 12, sorry, my bad.
Yes, the Bathurst 12 hour was, I think it was Axel's first sim racing victory as well. It was our first race on
Yeah.
iRacing. So yeah, that was a great day for everyone involved.
Absolutely. And of course, the other question was directed to Inigo. Inigo, what's your favorite sim racing platform and why?
So I've tried a lot of games, but definitely I wouldn't go the same with Josh with iRacing. I'm just really bad at that game. But I'll just say, just with all the experiences and racing against the best teams in R Factor 2 is generally why it's become my favorite sim. And it may not be like as popular as iRacing and have the daily races and a good ranking system, but what I was able to experience in R Factor 2, and of course I'll just keep saying it, racing against Max Verstappen and other F1 drivers and teams is just something that'll be a core memory from until when I grow up. So R Factor definitely.
Nice. So that's actually balances things out, because we got two different answers here. And of course, the inevitable question of is Max in this split? If anything. No, Max is not here, of course, so we can ask him those kind of questions. Now then, so that's kind of like a segue to the next question, which is specifically for Alif and Naki, but we'll go for Alif first. How much practice do you put to compete at the top level in esports? And of course, it kind of reflects the fact that you are actually not in Malaysia, right? In Singapore right now. My bad.
I did some calculations. One of the weeks I put in about 50 hours a week. So my recent routine has been waking up at 6, working out, and then practicing, and then afternoon after my classes, practice, do some homework, practice till like midnight. So that's the kind of commitment that you kind of need to compete at the top, I'd say. And it's gonna be the same answer for everyone else, because I think that's how seriously we take esports and sim racing, and that's kind of how much we want to win.
Indeed. And of course, the fact that it's kind of reflected that you decided to put a chair with the Ball State logo behind. So, can you elaborate a bit on that actually? Because I did mention at the top of the show that you are in Muncie, Indiana. So, give a bit of background on that.
So, Ball State University is home of, I think, the United States' first complete esports program. So they started like 2-3 years ago, and they reached out, or they didn't reach out. They put up a article which us called out for a esports scholarship per se. So them and the IndyCar team, Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing Team, they put it out, and my dad was like, he found it, and we immediately wrote into them, and the esports director Dan Marino was like, yeah, you're exactly who we were looking for, and yeah, wrote in. The process was really smooth, and I'm here, I think, after winning 2 championships, leading in another 3, and yeah, going strong.
Indeed. And of
I
course,
wish I'd seen that as well, so that we'd be teammates in that school as
Yeah, I
well.
know, right? But you already studied.
I was
so-
in another study.
well, you can credit transfer if you want, of course. And we both go to the
Yeah.
same alma mater, so hopefully, Uni 10 actually, shout out to them, has a bit of a MOU with Ball State in the future for any future talents. And of course,
Who
get
knows?
to meet with the likes of David Letterman and Bobby Rahal in that particular case.
Yep.
But we cannot dilly along with this question anymore. Thanks for that brilliant answer, Alif. We'll go to Nakit's one. And it's kind of typical, it's kind of like involved a bit with this practice session part. What is involved in a typical practice session in sim racing, especially given the fact that you had to prepare for a race, Nakib?
Practice sessions normally comprise of fun part and the boring part. Fun part for me is, you do the race prep. You do basically everything that could happen during a race weekend. So from tire strategies to fuel strategies and basically just having a run plan of what you would do in a race weekend. I wouldn't say boring part, but the tedious part is the setup work.
Mhm.
That is a long process. You ask any of the drivers here, it takes forever to find the optimal setup. And more than half the time, the stuff that we do, you change to the original baseline setup and you're just as quick, and that's just the worst feeling ever. But yeah, it's just comprising of making sure you leave no coins unturned and making sure you cover all bases and grounds and trying to make sure you're fully prepped for the race weekend ahead. Practice is very crucial in the world of sim racing. I think more crucial than real life world, because your competitors we all have infinite amount of time to practice. It's just a matter of whether you want to put in the time or not. You're not limited. So, if you're not practicing, your competitors are. So that's why we're always on it. As Ali said, 50 hours a week.
Yep. Or in this case, like what Max Verstappen said in an interview with Carwa, was it, with David Coulthard? He said 60 hours. So, at least the groundwork's being done there, and the fact that a lot of practice has been put. But do you prepare for any eventuality, especially if, say, you want to see what happens if things go wrong? Do you have a backup plan, Akib?
Well, we do have actually. So here in Malaysia, we're lucky that Axel has a facility, a simulate racing facility. So should anything mechanical or let's say technical happens at our place, because we race from our homes, we do have a backup place. We did that test during 24-hour Le Mans. We literally did a 24-hour race practice, just making sure everything went smoothly, had no issues. But yeah, like in real racing, simulator racing does have its technical issues, which sometimes can be out of your control. So it's always good to have a backup plan whenever needed.
And that will probably come in handy once, for example, I think it was in E1, wasn't it? That the very first round of the season, both you and Nabil, your brother, also in Axel Sports, had a bit of a failure before the start of the race, and that really kind of set you back, didn't it?
Exactly. I mean, start of the championship, and through no fault of our own or anyone else, in fact, it just got kicked out of the game, and it's things like that can win or lose your championships, and just making sure that that those things don't happen.
Indeed. Now, that's a bit of a damn script to go on, but that's why sim racing is kind of like real racing. You need to have any plans, eventualities, and of course, there's some euphoria and a bit of pain in between. But that's sport, isn't it? That's very typical sport. And speaking of that, we're gonna go. It's kind of like a segue to the next question, which involves all of you guys. But again, we'll go through it in a row between Josh, Nakib, Alif, and Inigo. And the question is, what are your most memorable results in Axel Sports? Starting with Josh first.
So I think everyone's going to have a similar answer here, but the Virtual Le Mans 2022, you can't really top that. But another result as well that we've had, like we mentioned before, was the 12 hours of Bathurst as well. I think that was quite a good win because from our end, that was essentially a flawless race. Like in iRacing, when you go off track or you have a contact, you get, incident points. And I think we ended that race with 1 incident point. So that was an almost perfect race for us over 12 hours. So that was quite impressive.
And considering the fact that it was actually the first split in Asia, wasn't it? The top split.
Yeah, the
Yep.
Asia Pacific and also the America split. So wasn't a bad effort for our first attempt.
Not too shabby indeed. Nakib, and probably apart from the Le Mans virtual one, what are
Yeah,
the
I'll
memorable
try.
results of this?
I'll try to find one other than that huge Le Mans achievement. I think I'd have to say my first win with the team in R Factor 2, which I don't know if you guys remember, was back at Indonesia at Imola. 7 hour or 8 hour race at Imola. That was a race that, so I missed the first round of Indonesia. Second round, I came in partnering with Alistair. It was a race which was super intense between not only the competitors but the sister car as well, because we had two cars entering that championship, and it was a huge competition between me and Alistair in our car and Alif and Josh in the other car. Super intense. Both cars wanted to win, but especially as a team, both of us were doing really well. I think qualifying we were split by under a tenth, and at the end of the race, both cars were a lap ahead of everyone else. And I think that was a big statement for us. We're a team that's wanting to win, and we're going to show it not only in the Asia Pacific region, but hopefully coming soon in the international level. That was really much a statement of intent.
Nice. That's a good way to end that one. And Alif, what's your best moment? And again, we're gonna have to skim over the Le Mans one because I think
Yeah,
it's a
the other
collective
two,
memory
yeah.
that everyone shares together. So has to be any other memorable results.
I would say my first ever race with Axel, which was Indonesia Suzuka. We managed to win that race. Yeah, we managed to win that race. And I do remember the Imola one. I was chasing down Alistair on the last stint. It was super intense. But yeah, the Suzuka one is always special because first race all with the team. I think first proper R Factor 2 race as well for me. So like learning all the things. No, actually the first one our engine blew. So well, skimming over that. Yeah, it was really memorable. Suzuka win for us.
Indeed. So we got three different answers, and I hope Inigo can keep the ball rolling with the fourth one. So what's your memorable result?
Well, aside from the big race, I would say it would probably be my first race also with Axel. It was in Indonesia, in Brazil. I forgot how many hours it was, but it was a race where we finished 1, 2, 3 with our team. And
That was your first race?
That was my first race with you guys.
Wow.
If I remember correctly. So yeah, a bit late to the party with all of you guys, but yeah, it was just a whole different aspect. It's like first time I was practicing with my teammates, the people who we are with right now here. It's first time interacting with them as teammates and as competitors at the same time. I know I came in second there, but I was just happy to be part of the team and ready for the next races.
And of course, it's quite nice to see that everybody's still involved from that first day all the way to the point now and to future endeavors. So, this is a question again for everybody. Maybe we'll just mix it up a bit. We'll now go backwards here. We'll go for Inigo first because he's probably waited the longest to get some of the answers in. We don't want him to hold up everything. We just want him to let it go as well. So, what's your favorite car and track combo? Or you can just say it separately as well if you want.
Ooh, well, I guess for a race car and a racetrack, and also just because it's been done in real life, is the Porsche 919 tribute in the Nordschleifer. I tried it once in Assetto. Ever since I just keep going back to it, and I really enjoy just the whole speed sensation that you get, and you like realize how the hell did this guy do it in real life. And the one special thing about that also is that they got the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife record on my birthday too.
Oh,
I think there's some connection with that, and yeah, just love it.
It's a special one, isn't it? And given the fact that it's also a prototype car, which I think outside of F1 is everyone's favorite car, isn't it? It's I think we can have a bit of a nod on that. Well done to that. And I think we might actually have another video idea for that one. You might try to do a Porsche 919 tribute around Nordschleife on your birthday as a next video idea.
Ooh.
Pen that in, of course. Right, then we move to Alif. What's your favorite car and track combination?
2020 Formula One cars around Singapore. Because I mean, I love driving those high downforce cars, and Singapore's my favorite track. So just the perfect combination for me.
Oh, absolutely. And also the fact that it's kind of a bit anachronistic in a way because IRL, it didn't happen in 2020, of course. Because
I never got to see the black arrows, so it's always a bit heartbreaking.
Indeed, but at least you can see it this year if you get lucky enough to go to COTA during the US Grand Prix or the three United States Grand Prix that we have this year.
Yeah.
So yes, so we got two devices already. Nakib, what's your favorite car and track combo?
Car and track combo for me would be not necessarily car combo, but the track that most impressed me was Bathurst. Up until sim racing started, I never driven the track before, but during the first edition of the eRacing GP Global Edition, it featured Bathurst in one of the last few rounds, and having never driven the track before, it was quite intimidating to start practicing on it. But once you get the flow, it is one hell of a track. Literally a track which involves full commitment, being millimeters away from the wall, and yeah, it's crazy. So track would be the Bathurst circuit. Car would be for me LMP2. Formula cars are nice, GT3 cars are nice, but LMP2 just hits the sweet spot, having that high downforce, but at the same time not having the sensitivity to have contact with other cars. You have to have rubbing is racing. So LMP2 does allow that. And yeah, that car, maybe, yeah, we'll try to do LMP2 at Bathurst, that would be quite interesting. But yeah, LMP2's Bathurst, that would be my car track combo.
Awesome, and that will be again another video idea. Of course, we are probably gonna do more recording after this. You keep that in mind as well. Try to do Orica 07 around Bathurst in R Factor 2. Will to that, of course. Right, Josh, your favorite car and track combo, and I think distinctly it might be Australian, isn't it? Because you've driven some tracks in IRL, especially Barbagallo.
Yeah, surprisingly though, I'd say though my favorite would be, I like driving this all the time, the IR01, which we all drove in E1 last year. I like driving that around Nordschleife for fun. I don't know why. But yeah, and also going back to your last question as well, Ammo, with the favorite wins, a win I completely forgot to mention, which is also quite cool, and Nakib might remember this, EES Sebring 12 hour.
Oh
The
yeah.
race where we only had enough people for one car, but then I decided that I wanted to do the race. So I signed up with one car, like I was the only driver, and I was just gonna drive for a couple hours. I started last because of course I didn't do qualifying, and then I ended up in the lead somehow after like a few hours. So we called Nakib at like 12 a.m. I think. So he drove a few hours before Sahur in the morning. And then I ended up hopping in and we finished at like 6 or 7 a.m. winning the race. So that was a very unexpected win, but it's got such a interesting story behind it.
And I kid you not, I wasn't even prepared to race that night.
Yeah, of
I was
course.
literally asleep. The guy just called me. I mean, Alex was the one who called me like, "Hey man, do you think you can do a stint in Sebring?" I'm like, "What?" No prep whatsoever. Somehow we got away with a win. They're just insane.
Talk about
Yeah.
dropping off the deep end, and for Josh, it was literal hard care. I remember the race because I was both racing and commentating that one. He drove, I think, about 5.5 hours, if I was mistaken. Or was
Yeah.
it more, Josh?
Yeah, well, the race started at like 9, and Nakib maybe drove for like 2 or 3 hours, and we're done
Yeah.
at like 6 in the morning. So yeah, a lot of driving at Sebring that day, and I was also in limited preparation as well because I wasn't expecting to drive. So yeah.
Absolutely. And that's kind of like sometimes all the preparation can be good, but it's when those kind of small gaps in preparation that turned out to be big results can just feel very gratifying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right. So, and speaking of the word best, we're going to use best overtake in the race, whether it's at IRL or in esports. You can put both experiences because I think a lot of you guys have done some real world racing. We'll start again with Josh. We'll just go bouncing back and forth with each question so everyone gets a chance to talk in sequence.
Ooh, my favorite overtake. I'm gonna go back to my F1 days, so no one's gonna know what I'm talking about. But if you remember Felipe Massa's overtake at Singapore, where he was like oversteering or went down the inside, I remember once. I don't remember how I did it, but I went around the outside of someone at that corner, and I remember just being very impressed by that.
It's a good overtake when you don't know how you did it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Those are the best ones.
Accidental
Not
overtake.
planned.
Not planned.
I remember actually as well, there was one more in Singapore. It was in Apex Online Racing, which was the top F1 series at the time. I was racing team at Marduk, and I was on the ultra soft tires. So and I just put them on at the end of the race, and everyone else was on U-softs. I outbroke him into like, I don't know, it's like turn 4, the one where Stanford stand is, and I outbroke him so much that I could just take the inside line, and he wasn't letting me through. It was just I broke really late, and because I was on the ultra soft tire and he was on U-softs, I made the corner.
Oh, wow. I think Marmaduke himself might actually have a recording of all the old races from AO at that time. Ain't that right, iFans?
Yes, yes.
OGs will remember that one, especially when they watched him and Madu's older content. And Nakib, your favorite overtake, IRL or in sim racing?
Yeah, gosh, I can't remember. So many, so many that's happened. Probably one of these guys, you know. I've done one on each of one of you, I think.
Ooh, banter.
No. I think I can only recall because my memory is very short. But I think recently during the first round of TGR this year, I did one on Mitchell Chia and Alistair Young. Turn 6, Sepang, they were both jostling for the lead. Pushed each other wide, saw a tiny little gap, went for it, sent it, and grabbed the lead afterwards. So for me, that's pretty sweet.
Taking that bread and and then some away from 2 drivers in one go. That's what you call racing. And Alif?
This one I remember, and it was against Nakib actually.
Oh no, of course.
E1 Le Mans season 2.
Outside, yes.
Last lap outside of I don't know what corner is that. It's like the flat, right?
Porsche.
I lost the
Porsche
lead
curves.
as well right from that.
Yeah. So that was
I lost the race win.
overtake for the win. So
Gosh.
I think that's the first thing which popped in my mind. I was like, yeah, that win and that overtake was super sweet. And if you rewatch the streams, me and Nakib was smiling because it was that close that whole lap, and it was like I was just like praying, like, please don't send it down the inside or anything. But yeah, that was really sweet.
And also the fact that at that time, iRacing was in both of yours, go-to games. It was kind of like against the iRacing specialists, and it was a great battle, wasn't it? It was kind of like a bit of a refreshing sight for 2 guys who are not familiar with iRacing but winning at it, wasn't it?
Yeah, true. It's like the 2022 F1 season where like Mercedes were back, and then we suddenly had a chance, right? So it's something like that where I think me and Nakib really enjoyed that chance for a win, and Nakib had his own wins as well in I think it was Indy.
Yeah.
So we had our good moments there.
I think even though I was the one overtaken there, I think we both were like, oof,
Yes.
that was good racing.
Yeah, it was good racing. No net code, no contact, no forex. It was just
Absolutely. Now we go on to Inigo. What was your best overtake either in esports or IRL?
Well, I was trying to think, but I gotta go also with my VS Cup races. There's 2 that particularly stand out to me, and there's first one is it was a reverse grid race, and usually I just been noticing in first corner of Clark International Speedway, it's a long loop that's uphill, and everybody just tends to go inside. It's like everybody who's there is. I just realized maybe I'll just go around the outside and break wherever I want to, and from 5th place, I was able to get up to 2nd right away with that. And then the next race, everybody starting outside already, so I couldn't do that anymore. But the other one also was it was first lap of the race too. I was 4th, and these 2nd and 3rd were just side by side the whole time, and then they just left just a little bit of gap through a sweeper that nobody overtakes too, and I just took my line and outbreak them for the next corner. It is such an amazing overtake. I think that would have been my best ever, but unfortunately, I got passed right away after. So I went up to 2nd, and I got passed by 3 guys and went down to 5th after that. So all the nice work and all the pressure, like that was such a good move, just gone.
Well, at least if you have a webcam, GoPro that you can probably just record the first part of it and then
just
cut
that
it off.
part, yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
cut it out.
I
Cut out the
did
rest.
that already.
Yep. Right. So this next question, I think we can also apply to Inigo because it's gonna be towards family members who are also sim racers as well, or real racers. And in this case for Inigo, it says that Carlos, with that really nice Senna helmet, by the way. I hope you can actually show us that right now if you have it with you.
I can get it later. Yeah.
Okay, so when you have the time wait between the questions, you can try and grab it. But what kind of for example, Alif, he has Tasbih, and then Nakib has Nabil. What kind of skill set will you take from, in this case, your father into your racing?
Yeah, so one thing that I just noticed me versus my dad, I basically got all his, maneuvers and techniques, but the one thing he still has over me is his first lap pace. Not meaning like it's qualifying pace, just literally jumping into a car into a new track and setting a really quick time. That is something I think he's done over the years in all championships. And the reason why he's also won like the hill climb championship here 6 years in a row, because you only get 2 runs, and those 2 runs count the most. It's like he's able to adapt to a car and track really quickly, and if it's the first time that's going to be set, I know he's going to be quicker than me still.
So it's basically like off the blocks immediately. He knows like even with cold tires, he can have that feel, which is something that you want to take as well, right? It's cold tire feel basically.
Yeah, it's something like I would say it's just me being a little scared, or I want to be more cautious, but at the same time, sometimes you don't have the time to keep up with this, so you have to be really aggressive right away.
Indeed, and aggression sometimes picks up for it in dividends as well, especially if you really get it right. And like your story of how going around the outside, that paid dividends big time. Hopefully, we can see more of that in future races. And indeed, you'll be coming to Malaysia pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, we haven't really announced it yet, but something's coming up soon.
Yep. I mean, it's just an upcoming thing, but we're not gonna announce big time soon. But we'll love to see you back here. Right. So, Alif, then we'll go to Nakib as well, because this is kind of like related to both of you. It makes sense. Not only both of you are very good in sim races as well, but you also have family members who are very good in sim racing too. With Alif having Tazbi and then Nakib having Nabil. What kind of skill sets as well, again, will be taken from those siblings? And indeed, for Nakib, it will be a longer answer because he has 4 of them who race together as well. Alif, you first.
I would say just like passing on like skill sets between each other, and like we can work really well when we like need to develop setups. Like for example, when we were back in France in FIA Motorsports games, we communicated really well with what I wanted with the car and what Taspi could try to experiment with the car, and that's something that I really enjoy with him, and all the camaraderie that me and Taspi have. And we've been competing with against each other since we were like 9 years old. So sometimes he'd win, sometimes I'd win. Nowadays it's more like I win more. So, so yeah, I mean he can't say anything. He's in NS right now. So, but yeah, it's always a good time and a good teamwork with him.
Indeed, and again, you might say that the first person you want to beat is your teammate, but especially if you have a brother as a teammate, it's kind of like the same kind of sibling rivalry, isn't it? So good segue to Nakib's answer, and I think he'll know that first thing very well because it's kind of somewhat talked about, especially on broadcast, isn't it, Nakib?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
Maybe you can bring it. Maybe you can bring it up later on.
Okay, never mind.
But-
Okay, pretend that never happened. But it's going back to the question: what kind of skill sets can you take from your brothers that you can actually put to your own racing? How it drives you forward?
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly well. You always want to be your teammate, but when the driver you're working with is your own brother, especially me being the older brother, him the younger brother, you never want your younger brother to beat you. Let's be honest. That's the last thing you probably want. So when he's starting off, it was quite chill. I was like, okay, cool. I'll help you out when you need to. I mean, we're still helping out each other now as well. But as he started improving and getting closer, I was like, oh, hang on now. I gotta keep myself in check here. Can't let him beat me.
Too.
Yeah. But no, I think what we showed really well during last year's CE Sports Championship. Or was it last year?
Yeah, it is last year, yes.
Yeah, last year CE Sports Championship. We pushed each other really, really hard. I think both of us wanted to win. Both of it, and because we live at the same house, we saw each other practicing. We knew how much each other was putting in the amount of time, and yeah, we just pushed each other to a different level. And I think we showed it during the races. We basically dominated that championship, and it was nice doing that. And hopefully, we'll have more opportunities to do that again, because I think having that type of intenseness during your practice sessions, I think that's what makes you improve a lot.
Absolutely, and I hope Nabil is listening to that while he'll probably take solace in the answer and probably will love to work together again in the future. Now for Josh, that kind of question probably doesn't apply because as far as I remember, I think he doesn't have a sibling that does sim racing. Don't you?
I have a 12-year-old sister, and she has never been on a racing simulator in her life. So
Ah,
We
so
gotta
we,
start her.
so we can
we
we can
gotta
we can.
start getting on this.
newest Axel Sports member.
Let's go.
We can start a female division after this. But so we can jump up that question a bit and probably ask what kind of which driver do you find as a inspiration for you to improve your skill set, especially given the fact that there's so many good drivers in Australia, isn't it?
For myself, yes, there's lots of good drivers, and surrounding yourself with high-level drivers will also help you become a better driver as well. It's like the saying, if you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll become the sixth, right? But for me, my biggest inspiration in racing is not from Australia. It would be Max Verstappen, of course.
Of course.
Because he does like lots of sim racing as well. That's why I support him in real life as well, because of how involved he is in the sim racing community. He's basically like the sim racing representative in Formula One. The effort that he puts in, and the fact that he can, go from finishing second at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to then winning like 8 races in a row on iRacing and top split. It's very impressive, and his skill is something to be admired, not only in real life but also on the sim.
Indeed, and probably that rumor of him putting a sim in a jet may not be so far fetched, but we don't know about that. He's not come and said anything about it either. Anyway,
Yeah.
so in these group of drivers among four of you, who do you find is your toughest competitor? So we'll start again with Josh, and then we'll go all the way to Inigo.
So my end is a bit interesting because, like, for example, Elif and Nakib, they battle each other all the time. But depending on the game, I'm usually a little bit behind, or like sometimes I've never really. The only person here I've actually fought in a competition before for a title is Nakib, because I've either always been too far behind or I've been a little bit ahead, finishing second, like at the Logitech G Challenge or E1. But when it comes to ERGP, I was always third. So the only person who I've actually fought in a championship with was Nakib in ERGP Season 5 in the DTMs. And that came quite close, but fell up short in that one.
Yep. And for Nakib?
Yeah, I think Josh set it up perfectly. Coming second to Alif, what was it, 3 times? Wasn't fun. I'm gonna be honest, but I think out of everyone here, he's the one that really pushed me to go a bit further. I think because the moment I started sim racing in that first season of eRacing GP, he was the one that posed the challenge and was the one I was fighting for in the championship. Obviously, I fought with Inigo and Josh as well in other seasons and other categories of racing, but majority of the time it's me and Alif, which is quite interesting because in the first few seasons of racing, we were both in different teams and were genuine competitors. And suddenly he came into the team as well, and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be interesting. How the dynamics is gonna work. Sorry, but thankfully enough, we work together smoothly from the get-go. I think we have a lot of respect for each other. We both want to improve and we both want to win, but at the same time, there's no dirty tricks here and there. We like to play it fair and we like to leave it to whoever's best on track.
Yep, may the best man win. And Alif?
I'd like to give credit to Josh and Inigo because Josh is super quick on iRacing. Like he says that he might be behind, but I think on iRacing he's probably the best among all of us. So
Oh, no doubt.
yeah, no doubt. So and Inigo, I've always liked battling with Inigo on Race Room and all the other sims that I've driven against him. So and of course, Nakib, as always, is going to be a great competitor to race against. Very, very smart, I would say. I think that's the first impression I had of Nakib was racing in Shanghai in the first ERGP, and he made like a lot of great smart moves. And I was like, okay, I gotta start like watching him and like start picking up stuff from him. So it's like, I think the mutual respect was there from the get go with all my teammates, and yeah, I think all of them are really great competitors to race against.
Lovely. And of course, Inigo?
Well, for me, yeah, I've raced against, all my teammates right here, but I gotta say the one time where, it was like, I would say the most tense we had battle was with Alif in one of the global editions. Is with the old F1 cars, and I just remembered like I think because everybody else already won their ERGP things and what do you call it, seasons, and I haven't won my first one yet. And then this like, oh, this may be my chance, but Alif standing in my way there. And I knew for that one, like, if I'm going to beat Alif, like I'll have to put in as much time. Good thing it was summer, but I know I was just stuck in my sim for like the 4 days. As soon as the track gets announced, like, okay, gotta get on it right away. And I'm not sure if also Leaf didn't have enough time to practice at the time, so I feel like I was a bit lucky with it. But yeah, it's just incredible fight, and yeah, I just cherish all the battles we have, and now that we're teammates, it's a great thing.
Indeed. And the fact that how long did it take for the feeling to sink in that you finally achieved that goal that you've always wanted to get?
Yeah, it was that's the one thing when I've switched to sim racing is that I'm always sometimes there, but I haven't really gotten a win until like how many months or even I think a year onwards. Even with E1, the only win I had, it was also taken away because I crashed into Josh's teammate back then. But yeah, it was just yeah, it's a really tough thing going into sim racing, but eventually when I got my global edition championship, just felt so relieved I finally did it.
Indeed. And you kind of did say that it did sink in on that day, but probably subsequent days afterwards, it kind of like felt, yes, you finally did it. And of course, everyone here is a Hall of Famer in essence in E-Racing GP. Now then, we're gonna move to the YouTube questions here because there's a couple, in fact, quite a few from people that have actually sent in. So if you want to get in touch with the drivers here, feel free to drop a line so we can just pick it up and everyone can start answering. So the first one is from Ilhan Nazir. He says, "Hi y'all, hello. Does having a team of engineers actually help you guys in terms of improvement during race preparations and performance during actual races?" A bit oxymoron there. He kind of repeated himself, but I think you get the question. You guys get the question, right? So I'll open up to everybody. Who wants to go first on this?
Yeah, I think I would like to start. They are very vital, especially in the day and age of sim racing. Now we are dealing with a lot of telemetry, a lot of data, a lot of numbers. So having engineer or a group of engineers on our team to decimate and make sense of the numbers is very crucial. And like for example, on our virtual Le Mans effort, we had like 4 engineers on our team, just sifting through the data and then working with all our drivers. And for all our upcoming championships, it's going to be the same thing. It's just having engineers going through the setups because of how realistic it's gotten in sim racing and how close to real life it has become. So yeah, for sure, they're very, very vital.
Indeed. And who wants to go next?
Yeah, I would say, same thing also. It's super vital, as they say. And comparing it like to real racing and sim racing, I would say it's even way better that we need what's that, data engineers in the sim world. Actually, in what I've competed in real life, the data that we get is very minimal compared to how much info that that we can gather from the sim. And we definitely need these data engineers because I don't know how to work all the numbers and statistics and of course the setup work. And the nice thing about it also is that not only do they help you with improving your speed, but they also keep you calm during the race. And it's something that can lack, especially if you're in sim racing. I notice, I tend to have more like emotions. I'd be angrier than competing in real life. And it's always good to have that the voice in your headphones saying that, okay, stay calm, this is what we're going to do, this our next plan, our next strategy. It's just really, even though we're the drivers and one holding the car, there's still so much people who work on it and to achieve the results we get.
Definitely. And given the fact that when you have so many engineers together, it's calming, isn't it? Because they are the voice of reason when there's a storm brewing during a race, if it goes wrong, for example. So that's quite nice to hear as well, to hear from a perspective of the mental game, isn't it, Inigo? Now then, okay, because we haven't heard Nakib and Josh's one yet, so I think Nakib goes first, then Josh, before we move to this. In fact, this guy actually had a second part of the question, which is brilliant. I like that one where he's going to ask after this, but we'll go with Nakib first.
No, I think Alif and Inigo summed it up perfectly. I don't think there's many more to add. Race engineers become, a vital part of sim racing, and I think it's gonna just become more known afterwards. I mean, moving forward.
Nice. And to end this question off, Josh.
Yeah, my teammate summed it up quite well. Engineers are very important.
Okay, there you go. Because we want to have everyone to have equal number of words to say. Because everyone gets involved in this. The people on the chats as well. And so this is the second part of the question that this guy asked. Or do you guys think that you can manage the technical parts yourself, since you guys are already experienced in the racing world? And given the fact that, for example, in sim racing, you can adjust a lot of things yourself from the MFDs or brake balance or whatever. Does the engineer come to play for that one, in case you have any qualms about it? So we'll go to Josh first, then we'll go all the way to Inigo.
So the main role of the engineer is helping you pre-plan your race before going into saying, okay, this is the amount of fuel that we're going to use, this is how we're going to achieve that, this is what we expect of you, etc. So in that way, however, when it comes to something, it depends on what game you're on. Like for example, I grew up playing the F1 games back in the days when before engineers became a thing in Formula One. You had to change everything on the MFD yourself. But usually before the race, the engineer will brief you on what they expect of you. So, okay, this stop we're going to pit for this tire or run this fuel mix, and we keep to what they say. But the MFD changes and stuff, I think iRacing is the only game that lets the engineer actually do the changes for you. So, yeah, the rest of it we have to do ourselves while we drive.
Indeed. So anyone of you guys want to chip in on that particular opinion from Josh?
Yeah, so I think us as drivers, it is crucial for us as well to understand the technical aspect of the car. So when in terms of like setup work and whatnot, it's good for us to have a rough idea of how things work as well. But at the end of the day, I think the engineers are the more superior in understanding of what they work. Obviously, they can also be differing opinions, especially when an engineer would think this setup change should work, but when the driver tested it out, it doesn't work. So I think there's gonna have to have a mutual respect between both the driver and engineer to trust each other's feedback, to trust each other's inputs. And I think, that's where the driver's understanding of the technical parts of the car is also crucial. I myself am trying to get better at it, as well as not only understanding the car itself, but also the data software, try and get the numbers so that I can rely on myself as well to do the stuff needed.
Absolutely. And Alif and Inigo, if you guys want to chip in on that, or is that actually sufficient enough in terms of an answer?
Yeah, I think my teammates summed it up really nicely. It's very important, I think, more nowadays than ever for the driver itself to understand the setup. Because when it comes to like LAN events, right, you are on your own on the rig most of the time. So you need to feel the conditions and you need to make the adjustments. And for that to happen, you have to really understand what's going on with the car. That usually comes with working with an engineer, trying to understand from them, trying to pick their brains. But at the end of the day, I mean, the engineer is always the one like sifting through the telemetry, and like seeing all the different channels, seeing all the numbers that's being produced out of the game, and then making sense out of it. I think that's the biggest part.
Nice. And Inigo?
Yeah, it's always good to learn what the data engineers, race engineers do, so that you can also do it to on a certain point. But yeah, it just goes back to the mental game and everything for me, is that even though I can crunch some numbers, do my own strategy, and also think about championship points, when your adrenaline's pumping and you're focusing on driving, you can't really think of it with a clear mind. So that's why it's always good to have a second person there to always keep you informed of all the things that are happening outside, so that you can just focus on your driving.
Indeed, and we all try to be a bit like Fernando Alonso, don't we? Because he could still remember the rule book in the middle of a chaotic race start. I think that's a just kind of a racer's brain that we will all love to have.
Yeah.
Now, we got a question from our good friend Rick Mo. I think we all know who this question is coming from. It's from Keith himself. So he's gonna ask for all you guys, what's the best cars you guys own and the best car in the world ever, in your opinion? So that's two phases of a question. We'll start with Inigo first. It can either be sim or IRL, whichever you guys can go with. So real car and best car in the world in motorsport, I guess.
Well, one thing that's what I've liked ever since is me and my dad, we have an Evo 5 Mitsubishi, And the nice thing is that my dad's always been to it like for 20 years. And when I was growing up, that was the car that, I would like to, just ride in and enjoy. I remember though, like when I was 5 or 6, he's actually sold it, and he was saying that I cried so much, and that he promised me the next time if we'll get the Evo back, he'll never sell it again. So it's something that I really enjoyed, and it's also the one thing I like learned how to drive manual with, started traveling with also. So it's like I'm reliving my dad's experiences with it. So it's nice. And I would say for a race car, uh well, again, the 919 tribute, but also, I'm just a Porsche fanatic also. And I gotta say also the GT3 RSR, just the sound is incredible.
The
from
GTE, right?
2018. Yeah, the GTE.
Okay. So, yep. I think I didn't know you were a Porsche fan until you just said it. So we'll keep that in mind. And well, congrats on the win in IMSA. Yeah, I think you were probably paying attention to that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Well,
That was great to see. So Porsche finally came good there. Alif?
So my dad had an old Mercedes-Benz van. It was manual, and it was silver. I still remember. It was so fun to be in it. And I think I had my first like experiences driving on it, and I'd say that's my most memorable. My favorite car of all time, Nissan GTR R34 V-Spec Nur 2.
wow. Really
It's a
expensive.
mouthful. Yeah, it's I mean it's my dream car. I think the engine alone, like you don't need a stereo. I could just listen to the engine go, and yeah, I could go on and on about the car, but yeah, that's my favorite car.
Put it into the silver and blue livery and you be Brian O'Connor.
There you go. Yeah, that's the dream. Put neon lights under it. Make sure that there's some
Smoke coming out,
gas,
yeah.
coming out the wheels. Yeah, perfect.
Indeed. Nakib?
I think most memorable car that we've had, my dad had a old BMW E30. It was a 325 or something like that. I'm not sure what it is, but dad had it engine swapped, I think, to a 6-cylinder, whatever. It was a very cool car at that point. Rear-wheel drive, 4-seater, 6-speed manual. Oh no, 5-speed manual, sorry. But yeah, at that point it was a really fast car. I think being that young, I haven't experienced anything like that. So I think that holds a soft spot in my heart. As for favorite car, I have to say, and I'll say this forever, Pagani's on the 760, and hopefully they'll make a special NA one Nakib Azlan for me. Yeah, so because Lewis Hamilton had one called it was a 760 LH. Hopefully get a 760 NA soon.
If Horatio Pagani's listening to this, give that guy his car one day.
Please.
Right, Josh?
So I don't come from a car family like most of you guys, so I don't have a fancy car that I grew up with. I mean, I've got two cars at the moment. I've got my Honda Civic, in Perth, and then I drive a 2016 Proton Saga in KL. And that's a lot more fun because the roads in Malaysia are, well, when there's not a jam, is a lot more fun. A lot less speed limits. But
Oh,
my favorite all-time car that I've driven is probably the Radical SR3, which I drove at Barbagallo Raceway. That was the real life car that I was most competitive in, and I could push a lot more, and it was really fun to drive. So that's going to be my favorite car that I've driven, or best car ever.
Nice. And Rick also, for courtesy of Keith, is asking the moderator the question. So he's asking me what's my favorite car that I've owned and the best car in the world to me. So I would say the best car I've owned right now is the one that the family car I have is a BMW 5 Series, a 520. I forgot it was the E60 I was taken. It has a fake M badge, which is a bit disheartening because we thought that underneath might have been a nice V8, but it turned out to be just a flat 6. But that's my favorite car right now because I've driven at a highway doing that around 260. That's the fastest I ever went, actually, without getting caught on the LPT2.
let's hope the police don't leave this video.
No. Let's hope they don't watch it.
Just for that.
So I hit 260 and after that got wet, nearly lost control, somehow managed to catch it. So that was my favorite memory of that car. And best car in the world, hard to say, but I think the FXXK that was driven by Michael Schumacher on Top Gear, that was
Ooh.
the sound of that
The
thing,
original
especially.
one, right? Not
Yeah,
the Evo.
yeah.
Absolutely, especially with the carbon disc brakes when it glowed, and when Schumacher drove, it's like it was gliding. It just literally was one of the best things I've ever seen. So yeah, nice to have the moderator answer the questions. We know it's just to all four of these guys, but shout out to that. Now there was actually another question that I saw just now, which I remember. The guy was asking. It's from Yoda is Yoga, real name John. I think it might be John McGregor, but we can't assume that. Anyway, he's asking to all four of you guys, what's the top 3 racing categories that you guys enjoy racing? And in this case, it's sim racing, IRL, whichever you guys can go, so long as it's the top 3.
Who's starting?
Okay, we'll start with Josh
okay.
because Josh was the last one. So yeah, we'll go.
All right,
sequence again.
Okay.
top 3 sim racing categories. Well, any iRacing competition is probably going to make that. Especially if they're in one of the formula cars, or if they're in, I'm not that good at GT3 anymore. Any of the any of the high downforce cars in iRacing. I've been doing this series lately where it changes car and track basically every time, so it's been quite flexible. My other favorite series that I've done in the past though, ERGP is always good fun, and competing in Virtual Le Mans as well. The LMP2 on R Factor. While it's not as realistic, it's quite fun to drive. So that has been a fun competition to participate in.
Lovely. Nakib?
Racing categories. I mean, as much as an F1 fan I am, I haven't actually done much F1 races. So I would love to put it in my top 3, but I'm not because, I haven't experienced it much. But I think top 1 for me would be touring cars. Tested it out in both sim racing and real life. Absolutely love it. Literally millimeter type racing where the field is going to be so close. Obviously, to overtake, it takes a lot of bravery and a lot of guts. So touring car would be up there. Second for me would be DTM. Obviously, fighting all of these guys in the DTM championship. The cars are super fun to drive. In fact, super hard to drive as well, because you have a turbocharged car with no TC, so it's really on the edge most of the time. And lastly, for me would be the LMP2. Like Josh said, endurance racing in the LMP2 car. The driving characteristic or the driving feel of driving that car is beyond. It's really enjoyable. So yeah, those would be my top 3.
Nice. Alif?
I would start with Formula 3 in iRacing. I feel like that's a category that I always enjoy racing in. Second would be DTM. Like Nakib said, I think ERGP races on the DTM was super fun. We had DRS as well.
The DRS, yes.
Yes, DRS trains. It just made things a lot more exciting, especially on the last lap. Probably last one. It's a tie-up, I would say, between like NASCAR and there's one more. P2, LMP2 cars. Because at least with NASCAR, you can make some moves. I was gonna put GT3 there, but it's hard enough to overtake in GT3 as it is. So yeah. So NASCAR and P2 just tied up in P3.
Nice. And the fact that you also had experience in stock car racing with iRacing before, and you've won the championship there too. So guess you can put it up there. Maybe one day you can go to Daytona or any of the oval races. Nice.
Yeah, maybe if I win the next one, I'll just ask them to like put me out in a real NASCAR.
We'll love to see that. Inigo?
Well, for my top 3, like I'm just mixing it between real life and sim. But for my third, I would say I just found this new love in rallying. I just recently competed 2 weeks ago in my first real life rally, and I gotta say it like just blew my mind away. You're just set free in this it was in the middle of a forest. It had one lane asphalted road, but like the adrenaline rush you got through it was like just crazy, and the trees flying by. It's something crazy. Like I played Dirt Rally too a lot before. I think about 100 hours, and I didn't expect it to be like that kind of feeling in real life. For second, maybe I'd say of course gotta be endurance racing P2 with Le Mans. Just with all the I think I've done the most endurance races compared to anything else in here, and compared to other series. And yeah, it's just really the thrill, and you really gotta keep your mental game up for driving how many hours, like 3 to 4 hours. It's really challenging, but after those long hours, especially after 24-hour race, you feel so relieved of what you've done, especially if you've gotten a good result. But I
Yeah.
would say still my number one, which is something it's just really tense, and it would be, VS Cup, or just really slow touring cars. Well, people really call it, so technically sometimes just call it slow, or it's not really exciting until you're in there, and then you realize how tight the competition is because everybody's in the same car as you. Sometimes in other like GT classes, maybe they have the edge over you in BOP, or just stronger tires, better engine. But here in VS Cup or any spec race series, it's really down to the driver and to the team to make the best setup with what they have. And it's just the emotions through every race, and you always see it with when we join these spec races, all the emotions are flying. There's super happy people, super pissed people, all the teams are really into it. And yeah, I'd say VS Cup.
Apologies for the slight language there. We do actually feel like that, especially in real racing or sim racing. So we understand what you're feeling, Inigo. And of course, rest in peace, Craig Breen, because WRC had a bit of a dark weekend as well over the past with Rally Croatia. Lead up to it was not very nice, but at least we got to see that you enjoyed rallying there. So at least different answers again from everybody, which keeps the variety up. Now, this is actually a nice question that came in from Jason Thong, and also his friend just now, John Siu. Sorry that I identified you earlier. Now, how do you handle pressure across an endurance race? This was actually a segue to what Inigo said earlier, so I would love him to continue on that one. Then we go right all the way back up to Josh.
Yeah, so in an endurance race, well, actually for any race, the adrenaline's always in there and keeping up. But after a while, if you still tend to, like overthink things in an endurance race, you'll just lose your focus after, an hour. So for me, how I just used to tackle it is, for the first few laps, of course, you gotta really need that sprint mindset, and that you gotta get ahead of everybody. But after that, you gotta tone yourself down. And I just like to think of it like as not thinking, basically, just driving how you want to drive it, and not thinking of not letting the emotions get to you. It's about focusing on the driving, keeping your emotions low, and just keep focusing.
Indeed. And that's something that Kimi Räikkönen also said about F1, where you just don't think, you just drive, isn't it? Something that also Pete Mitchell, aka Maverick, said, don't think, just do. Right. Alif, do you share that same sentiment?
Yeah, I do. I mean, endurance racing is like, for example, 24 hours. You have to think of the long game. So by thinking of the long game, you actually, like if you're like your second or third stint, right? You don't have to battle very hard. Per se, like you're taking care of your tires, you're taking care of your engine, you're taking care of your car, taking care of your fuel mileage. So I feel like all those factors come in. It's a bit different to a sprint race where you are just, balls out, flat out, all the way. So I kind of do enjoy that. Just it brings a certain amount of peace, certain level of peace when doing that. Knowing that it's such a long race and that you can actually save your tires early in the stint and then catch right back up and pass everyone else at the end. So yeah, it's pretty peaceful, to be honest.
It's serene. It's like being the Dalai Lama, isn't it? Right.
Yeah.
So, Nakib?
Yeah, pressure endurance racing is really different compared to sprint racing, as said from Inigo and Alif. It's just a matter of retuning your brain really to not be at 100% all the time. Obviously, people would always tell you in racing you have to be at 100%, but actually in endurance racing, it's not the case. You actually want to be roughly around 95% actually. So like I am guilty of it as well, when sometimes during practice or whatever, in endurance race, you want to keep, I'm always really intense and superficial about the delta time between the stints. So you want to keep your laps to as close as you can compared to the fastest. And sometimes, it can bite back at you because you try to maintain that lap time, but you overdrive and you end up losing a lot of time. So a message that I always got from our dear engineer Han: lose the 10th. rather than lose seconds in the race. So I think that's a message that I always keep in my head whenever I'm doing endurance racing. So I can afford to lose a tenth to ensure that I don't lose seconds, being caught up in a collision or, track limits, drive-through penalties as such.
Mhm. Indeed, I think yeah, I can share that sentiment as well because I have that kind of thing where I don't want to lose a whole load of time. I just want to lose a bit of seconds in case I make a mistake, make up for it later on. So just regroup yourself quickly. So that's good advice. And Josh,
Well, endurance racing, it's kind of, well, when I first started doing endurance racing, I found that if I wasn't the driver who was starting, I was the driver who started second or third after my teammates put in a good stint, I would feel a little bit of pressure, especially when I first started sim racing, because, okay, you're now in a good position. Someone's put in a lot of work, don't stuff it up, right? But as you know, you do more endurance races, you get the mindset of, well, you've got to do it, especially when you're competing at the top level, like Virtual Le Mans or for the ACC guys, IGTC, for example. You've kind of just got to do it because the first lap, you've got to be on it because everyone else is going to be on it on the first lap. So it's getting into that mindset of just being flat out right from the start. You don't have a chance to warm up and lose 2 or 3 seconds.
Varying different answers again, but some just overlap. So it's good advice, and I hope Jason got what he was looking for in that one. Now then, looking up through the comments, we have a bit of a fun one, and I think you guys know who's asking this question. Who's your favorite race engineer, and what's your best memory of him? I think you know who's asking this.
I don't know who's asking that.
Um,
Some guy who worked for us, I guess.
Oh, he'll be
It's Han asking it, right?
yes. I think he'll be
Yeah,
sad to know that no one got it. So, Josh, you can go first.
Yeah, so thank you for your question, Han. My favorite engineer is Nazir. No, Han, we all love you, Han. It's okay, it's okay. We appreciate everything that you do, Han, for us, and yeah, you've been a big help to us over the past few years.
Okay,
That's a good question, though. What memory? It's very difficult because I think, often or not when we work, I mean, all race engineers are, top level here in Axel. The stuff that they provide for us is, without them, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we have done in our sim racing career so far. But yeah, if you were to ask me a special, moment with race engineers, I really, really can't point one out. I think all of them are truly amazing, and I think it's just striving to achieve more with everyone else in the team.
Absolutely. And of course, the fact that for Han is in essence, you also work with him IRL, so you actually have the best of both worlds in essence.
Yeah, exactly.
Alif?
I have to say the latest Virtual Le Mans that we did, even though it wasn't that good a race, but I felt like we got the setup nailed pretty nicely. And I remember doing my stints, I was talking to Han, it's like, Han, like we might have just got a really nice handling car. I think Nakib could relate to that as well because we both were lapping like super quick. Like I think we started 20th, we ended up like 5th or something. I don't know.
Something like that.
When
Well inside the top 10.
Yeah, it was well in the inside top 10. I was just like smiling while driving. And I was still telling Han, I've never felt like this driving the P2 like this amount of joy. And I think that was probably my favorite moment with the engineers. Just like the euphoria of like finding out that we all the work that we've had put in came to fruition.
Indeed. And the fact that endurance racing is a bit different when you're racing by yourself, isn't it? It's the camaraderie. Not only do you work with your drivers, but it's with the engineers too. It's like a mini traveling circus, but everyone's like almost like a family in that way, isn't it? The trials, tribulations,
exactly.
anything. Yep.
Yep.
Now, Inigo, I think you might probably echo the same sentiment.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like what you were saying before, all race engineers are important. But the one thing for me, especially with Han, is that he became my first race engineer also in sim racing, or I would just say in general. Also, I've never really had somewhat of somebody in my ear while I'm racing. I've had coaches, but somebody who's keeping me calm and doing what a race engineer does. And yeah, we shared a lot of experiences, especially in the E1 championship. He was my race engineer there, and I think he's also the reason why I joined Axel, because he put in a good word for me with Alex, and yeah, I'm just super grateful for that. Thank you, Alex.
And indeed, so everyone has a wholesome story or two from the engineer side of things. And just to put a bit of a curveball here, our own Afiq Farid, I think you guys know him very well as who's the most good-looking personnel among the team members. Anyone, even including up to the drivers, the engineers, anyone who's behind the scenes. It's just for fun because
I mean,
why not?
it starts with the A, but I mean, sorry, Afi, it has to be Amir, right?
Ah, come. Hi me right now, guys. Don't. It's just for
Yeah.
fun. So, yeah.
It is Joe. Joe.
Oh, Joe, yeah. I agree.
Whoa.
Hands down. No one can fight.
Oh man. And Khan's crying right now with the answers he's giving. Why don't we put Han out there actually? Han is pretty much the most good looking guy in Axel, I
Yeah,
think.
let's put
Yeah,
Hans.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. We'll give you that. Han. We'll give you
We'll,
that.
we'll let him have it.
Yeah,
Engineer is.
we'll let it slide.
I think Josh, you might have that answer as well, right?
Yeah, engineer is.
Engineer Riz.
Awesome. Right, that was kind of like takes a bit of lightheartedness into the equation. We'll probably just run through a bit of questions because some of these guys have had questions before. So this is now back to the individual questions. And for Nakib, for a start, how do you deal with the pressure competing against not only with yourself, of course, because you're driving as individuals, but also you work together with the team, especially striving to actually be the best in that one. So do you train together? How do you train together and then help each other out in a sense? Because you're actually doing for both parties, not only for yourself, but for the team. How do you deal with it?
Good question. I think it's just a matter of being true to yourself and not trying to, let's say, dig a grave for someone else. I think it's really important that you're true to the work that you put in. You genuinely want to help everyone out. You genuinely want to do well together as a team. And at the same time, you believe in yourself that you have the capabilities of being the best out there. I think there's no doubt. I definitely believe that I'm I can beat anyone out there on track, and I'm sure all these guys believe the same thing as well. Because I think if we don't believe that, we wouldn't be on the racetrack. So I think it's just staying true to yourself and having that self-belief.
Awesome. And also, of course, it's not a question to everybody, but if anyone wants to chip in, you can also do that because it's open forum, you might say. So does anyone have to chip in that account, or you can agree with Nakib's sentiment? Guess everyone-
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
I think Nakib summed it up really, really well.
All right, nice. Next up, we have Inigo's question, which has been like, what has been some or one of your toughest moments in a competition, either IRL or in sim? So I think you might have a couple of stories to tell on that one, don't you?
Yeah, well, I'd say the one. Oh yeah, I'd say why also, before with the question what was my favorite race series and why it was VS Cup, is that the 2 seasons that I joined, the championship came down to the final race, and it was a must-win situation. Even though I stayed consistent and won some races, it was still not enough until the last race. And yeah, just the 4 hour, 5 hour wait before the race happens is just you're thinking of all these things that could happen and how it could make or break the race and the whole season, especially for the team. You're also going for the team championship. And it is just something, where I learned how to also keep my emotions and have a good mindset coming into a race, because the pressure is building up. You're so nervous, you have to go to the restroom like 4 times, maybe, with lightning and stuff like that. But I realized then it's like, even though I'm against other competitors, it is important that I focus on my own race first and nail the passes that I'll do, and nail the every sector, every corner that I can. And it definitely paid out, because when I got into the race, the pressure just disappeared, and I was just able to run my own race. It's just that's where it was the most tense situations, but it's where I felt most alive as well, racing.
Absolutely, that's very nice to hear. And that's in your 10 years of competition. You said before that was probably like the most stress you felt, isn't it? Because slower cars, big traffic, it just gets a bit hectic, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say these VS races, they're super fun for the spectators, but I enjoy driving them, but they're super scary as well because there's just so much that can happen in even though we're going not so quick speeds of an F1 car, even though we're going 100 or 60, so much things can happen.
Indeed. And in the meantime, while I'm asking the other question, I guess probably you can get your dad's lit now or your helmet, the Senna helmet. We gotta see
Sure.
it actually. We gotta see it up close. So it's just a nice touch to have. So you can go off first, and I'll
Okay.
ask the other
Yeah,
questions
definitely.
first.
I'll do that.
Now then, this one is to Alif. You're about to leave for Italy, incidentally, pretty soon for the SRO Simpro series.
Whoa.
Can you tell us more about that actually?
So it's what do you call it? It's being marketed as a world championship, but it's like the best of the best in Europe, all competing at LAN events all across the GTWC World Challenge races. And the first round's gonna be in Monza this weekend. So we've been hard at work getting the setup all right with the team, and yeah, it's gonna be a good one for sure. It's on the latest update as well. So if anyone plays ACC, we've been on that update for a while. We're not gonna say anything, of course, but because we've signed an NDA. But you're gonna have to wait till I think one or two more days. But it's a good update. And it's gonna be very fun for sure. Just to be in the presence of the best, learning from them, of course, like, and eventually just try to win races and trying to win the championship.
Absolutely, and it's against the toughest competition in the world. Meanwhile, Inigo is back into the saddle. Let's see. Oh wait, before we go at Inigo, I had to say, don't forget,
Senna.
nice. Don't forget to
Yeah.
say hi to, of course, Arjun Mania, a good friend over in Virtual Le Mans
Yeah,
at one
yeah.
point. Right.
Mhm.
So, Inigo, show us that helmet in all its glory.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Nice.
That's so cool.
And sorry for the advert
Yeah.
sponsor.
No,
but
don't
yeah,
worry, because it's
just our
actually
sponsor.
it's censored actually, so I think that's fine. Even has the
Yeah.
Senna signature on the side, which is a nice. Oh, was that your dad's signature?
No, it's Senna's signature. And we've also
Oh,
put
nice.
this logo there. And actually, just even growing up, yeah, we were just Senna fans the whole time, and we are just, crazy. Oh, what's that? We were just amazed with his speed, especially in Monaco. Of course, everybody knows how well he drives there, and you want to be that, that perfect. Oh, said that perfect. And so yeah, just a nice little tribute helmet that we always wanted to do. We've always been racing with white helmets, but now finally got been able to paint it.
2 thumbs up.
I,
That's a
I
s-
feel like the shell is so perfect. Like it really does look like what Senna wore. Like it's the shape of the visor.
Yep.
Also, yeah.
A lot of the tribute helmets, the shape of the visor is a bit off, or the shell is a bit off, but this one just looks right.
Thanks for that.
Even
Yeah.
Lewis's one, isn't it? The tribute hammer that he had to Senna, that because it's a modern shape,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it captures the
So
essence
it looks
of it.
a
It doesn't
bit,
look it.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little touch there, a good throwback, and hopefully we'll see that helmet in more future races. Right. A couple of questions also came in, including Nabil himself. He's asked which track you wish to drive IRL. So we've stuck with Inigo for a while, so we had to go all the way back to the top. And Josh Perwin, what's your track that you want to drive IRL? The most you want to drive, the most desired track.
Nordschleife.
Oh,
Oh man,
looks like he's
everyone's
beat.
gonna have that
Answer.
answer.
Yeah.
And I think Nike, you'll probably bring your daily driver to that as well, just for funsies, isn't it? It's bringing the German car
yeah.
back home.
Yeah.
Of course, exactly.
So no, two Nordschleifers, Alif.
For me, it's gonna be the track that you can't just rock up and drive. It's gonna be Marina Bay Street Circuit. You can't just rock up
Oh,
on a
yeah.
tourist thing. Like it's my bucket list, right? If I drive on the track competitively, at least once I can die in peace, basically. So yeah, it's such a, how do you say that? Because you've been, like, for example, Sepang, right? Imagine seeing that track every year in Formula One, being on track walks to it, but then never being able to like drive on it.
Yeah.
So that's the feeling that I kind of have. And yeah, I mean, if I ever have a chance, I think I would just be the happiest person in the world just that weekend. And then once the weekend ends, I'd just be like on the ground just crying.
I think you had that before, where you wait until 5 a.m. to get Lewis Hamilton's appearance for you.
Yeah.
What a
yeah,
guy!
yeah,
That's
exactly so.
top player right there. And for Inigo, I think it might be the same answer or different.
I'd say I'd throw it out. Maybe the Le Mans track, and just reason being of the experiences in the sim, especially during the nighttime. Like I just get to imagine like, wow, I did the sim thing. If I could just do the real thing, also it would be such a story to do. And yeah, I think when I'd be going down, the Le Mans strategies be remembering all the moments we had even in the sim. I think that's our most racetrack among all of us. That's where we put in the most practice. So I think we'll know it, through and through.
Indeed. And oh, someone came in and said, Senna Sempre. That's forever Senna. So nice touch there as well, Sherman saying. Now then, what was the other question? We have Adriamid actually, who's come in and said, um, what's your favorite Formula One driver and why? And of course, we start with Inigo first. Alif, I think you're smoking right now. We're obviously
you
can
can
tell.
mute now. You can definitely.
Okay,
for
I
me,
could just mute in this thing.
Yeah, we can bypass your answer. I think we know that is quite clear. And I think Josh to an extent as well because we know who his favorite driver is. So we'll go with Inigo and Nakib, but Inigo first.
Well, okay, I would say current, and I'd be Josh, and hopefully Alif doesn't hear this. Yeah, he just defends me. But yeah, of course, Verstappen right now. But just ever since, especially when he started getting in, and yeah, I just always like when I think of why was he my favorite and why do I support it now? It's just because what I was lacking in real life racing is what he was able to do in there, and what I was lacking was the aggressiveness, the confidence, the ability to do all the some people would say crazy moves that he does, but like it's something that I wish I could have that in myself, to better myself in my own racing.
Indeed, and take all the good values, of course, not to have some of the bad habits that certain race drivers IRL do. So that's nice to hear. And Nakib?
I just like to point out, after I answer this, I'll run away and let these guys debate of whoever is the best F1 driver here. I think for me, I think it's not a secret. I was a big fan of Sebastian Vettel. I think the reason why is because he just had a really nice personality. I think he was such a cool guy off the track, super funny, just super kind to everyone as well. But what really sparked my eye was how ruthless he was on track. Just that will to win in the early 2000s, 21st century, with after him winning 4 consecutive championships. It was just his peak era was really unmatched, I think, with the modern drivers. It was something that I don't think you can see nowadays. I mean, especially 2013 during Sepang Multi 21 with Mark Webber. I think although it was a controversial incident, but I think his beliefs was true. He was a racing driver. He overtook because he believed he was faster. He won the race at the end, and I think all champions would have that mindset. And I think him showing that was quite cool. Nowadays you see PR agents basically on the grid. They just say nice things all the time, and I think that was a good era for F1 and just what made me become a fan of him.
And absolutely. So now, I think everyone can just overlap each other in terms
I'll
of
run away
the
now.
answers. Yeah. So we can overlap each other in terms of questions and answers. But this one again is specifically to Nakib and Inigo. How much of your sim racing experience were you able to translate to IRL? So it's just the skills that you have taken in. Feel free to just banter each other on that one because we're probably gonna have to skim through. We're probably running a bit low on time. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first, actually. Yeah, so I think for me, it was a very, really pressurizing moment when I moved into the real world, when I made that transition, is because I think in Malaysia, especially, having a sim driver go into real world was pretty much unheard of. And having Toyota Gazoo Racing Malaysia help support me and also fellow ex-teammate Mika become in that program amongst young karters. I think everyone imagined karters to be the one faster I mean, these sim guys, they play games, what they're going to know about. So it was important for me to make a statement. And I think it really came showing through what sim racing has helped me and both Mika as well. The fact that the moment we came inside that car, everything felt at home. The way you come on throttle, the feeling through the steering wheel. In fact, because we practice it on the sim and we're limited to the senses, the moment we step into a real life racing car, you're just enhanced with all these senses from the seat, from your body, just feel the car a lot more. And I think that's what helped us through, and that's what helped us show sim racing had the capabilities of
Yep.
transferring into the real world as well.
And then for Inigo?
Yeah, for me, I'd say the one thing that's helped me the most with sim racing is, well, of course, the pace and stuff. It's pretty similar, but I've never raced a rear-wheel drive car. I've only raced it like after the pandemic with the Radical SR1 here. But after that, my only prior experience was in the sim. My race cars before were all front-wheel drive, and I was so scared with just even oversteer. So learning it in the sim, learning how to control it, and all the things that happen, it was a nice thing that when I jumped into Radical, I wasn't afraid of oversteer anymore in the correction and how a rear-wheel drive car does. And there's also one secret. I can't really let's say what it is because my competitors might might do it. But there's something that I've learned in the P2 car that I applied to the SR1, and it actually helped me get quicker lap times.
Sick. Now then, I thought we lost Ali for a second because he went into the darkness and he's back into the light now. As Jason Tay, sorry if I pronounce it. I know it's Jason Tay. I can pronounce it. He says he misses you. So just
I
one
miss you too, bro.
what kind of message you want to give him?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of miss like all the races that we did back in Singapore. I think me and Jason always had we were teammates back then, so yeah, it was always good fun. I think racing again with him, and yeah.
Right. So hopefully, Jason, you got what you wish for in that one. And now, second to last question in this prompt, as it will be to Josh. What advice would you give to someone who's looking to become a successful sim racer, especially starting out very green, but then you want to achieve your ultimate goal? So, what kind of advice would you give?
So, like I said before, trying to surround yourself with other fast competitors can help elevate your skills as well. So, hanging around the right people who are willing to put in the work. For example, our team, everyone's willing to practice and put in the effort, which is helping us all get faster. We're also all similar pace, so we're trying to, compete and get the one up on each other as well a lot of the time. Another thing that you can do as well, which we have all received in our team, we've received assistance from Alex, who's given us, coaching tips, whether it be mental preparation or how to get faster or how to set up a car properly. So getting involved in coaching, for example, I think all of us here or most of us do some form of coaching classes, whether it's online or in the Axel office in Kuala Lumpur. So getting involved in that can also help enhance your skills because you're getting tips from people who are quite experienced in the field.
Awesome. And now, this is the final question because we're gonna end it off. We're about on the threshold of 1.5 hours. Over than that. Is what are your goals for this year in sim racing? So it's open to anybody. They can just raise their hands up or just banter with each other about that. So who wants to go first on that?
Win. Only goal.
Easy.
Just
Full
win
stop. Win.
anything. Just join and win. I think that would be the goal. Even for Simpro, I think maybe the fastest drivers in the world, but I think if you don't join with the mentality of winning, then what's the point of doing it, right? I think everyone else would agree with the same thing. And yeah, I think this being the final question, I do have to add that I have to thank Team Flash as well for letting me join Axel as the sister team back in 2021. I think Team Flash has been very vital in that of like loaning me out onto Axel Sports, and yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
So-
Sorry,
you-
yeah.
No, you go first. You go first.
Okay.
Go first.
I think what Ali said is win. I think that's the main message here. But I think for me as well as a team point of view, I think over the last couple of years of us doing sim racing, we've made a good message out there that we're up and amongst the best out there in the Asia Pacific region. And I think the next goal for us is to delve into that international space. I think Alif is showing it, doing it in Simpro, representing Flash Axel Sports. Both me and him represented our own nations in the FIA Motorsport Games last year, both finalists. And I think it's that message of intent that, us Asians out here, although we are the level here is not as competitive as at the Europe stage yet, but we're all here to show that we can still compete with you guys out here there in Europe, and hopefully one day we'll be a team to be reckoned with in the international world.
Yep. Now we can fight.
Mm.
Right.
So I think for me, it's a little bit different to these guys because they're all quite good at ACC, whereas I'm not that strong at that game. So until there's a major RF2 or iRacing competition in Asia Pacific or worldwide, which we can compete in, I'm kind of stuck on the sidelines. So what I'm going to be doing is helping grow the sim racing community in Malaysia, trying to get them more involved. We're looking at introducing potentially some competitions, some local competitions. Even in our office, we're looking on expanding our reach, getting more people involved in sim racing, because that's what, really matters, people enjoying it. And the more people that do sim racing, the more popular that it gets. I am really excited to be getting involved in that in the next couple of days. So yeah, the more of the audience we get, the more people we get involved, the better chance we have of getting Southeast Asia on the global sim racing map as well.
Wicked. And well, Inigo will be the last one to close this off. And
Well-
what you like to say?
Well, yeah. Well, since there's not really any RF2, because I'm just more used to RF2 than any other sims. There's no events yet, so I'll just be in the sidelines. Maybe also learning ACC. Fairly new to it, but I've seen how quick Nakib and Alif are at it, and I want to set my goal to be getting closer to them, and hopefully maybe in competing in bigger events like that. But one thing I also want to do, like what Josh was saying, is expand the sim racing community, because it's really a hidden gem that people still don't realize, and still people call it a game or waste of time, or it won't teach you anything, when it's the exact opposite. And that's something maybe this summer I'll try and grow and maybe help the racing community out here in the Philippines.
Awesome. Well, that's actually the best way to end it off. It's about a community thing. It's just to have everyone get involved and just unearth more unseen talent. It's like unearthing some precious gems. It's a diamond in the rough, as you might say it. But thanks again to Josh Perwin, Inigo Anton, Nakib Azlan, and AR Muhammad Ali, aka Alif Hamilton, for the Q&A. And I hope everyone who joined the chat on all three platforms enjoyed what the feedback that the guys have given. And yeah, all we can say is thank you for watching. And to end it off, just have a wave. So thank you everyone for joining. And we'll see you
Thank
next
you,
time.
guys.
From me, Amir Marzik. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.